Okay, so full wave rectifier has been done in the last lecture. Today we shall discuss full wave rectifier. So in the full wave rectifier, just it is an extension of the half wave rectifier. In the half wave rectifier, we have been getting the output in this for this half of the input signal cycle. Okay, so for the full wave rectifier, actually we get the output for the full cycle. Uh, so there are two types of full wave rectifiers. First is called as center tapped full wave rectifier, and the next is called as full wave bridge rectifier. So we shall first look at center tapped full wave rectifier. Center tapped means actually this is the name given on the basis of uh, the transformer which is utilized to give uh, to the rectifier circuit. Okay, so as the case for first figure we can see here that the transformer secondary is tapped in the middle. Okay, so that's why this is called as center tap. Okay, from this tapping center tapping point we connect a load resistance. So this is a load resistance here R, and then from the two other ends of this secondary we connect the diode D1 and D2 to the load. Okay, so this is the typical uh, center tap full wave rectifier, which can be understood to have two uh, half wave rectifiers, can we can say. So first diode uh, circuit can be seen to be this one, upper one, and the second one we can think of this one. Okay, so second and the first. Okay, so if we separately look at these first and second diode circuits, then it appears as if these are the this particular rectifier is a combination of two half wave rectifiers. Okay, so two half wave rectifiers. So one rectifier is working for one half of the input signal, and the second one acts in the second half wave second half of the input signal. Okay, so we will look into details of this. Just this is the circuit here, that of the center tap full wave rectifier. The next one we can see is a bridge rectifier. In the bridge rectifier, we use four diodes D1, D2, D3, and D4. In this case, there is no need of using the center tap transformer, and without the use of center tap transformer, we can realize this full wave rectifier. So simple transformer, okay, step down transformer we can use here to tap the to give the input to this full wave rectifier here, bridge type. Okay, so the center tap transformer is actually bulky a little bit and is costlier also, whereas the simple step down transformer is lightweight. Okay, and okay, that must not costlier. Okay, one can say it is cheaper. But the problem is that it is using 4 diodes. But diodes, we shall see that the semiconductor elements, okay, any of the semiconductor elements like diodes, transistors, MOSFETs, these are produced in bulk, okay, and that size is so tiny so that one can produce it in a large quantity in a single batch. So what happens due to this? The cost of unit semiconductor device is very less. Okay, it is cheaper as compared to other components like even these simple transformers. Okay, so say 2-3 rupees will be the cost of the diode, okay, or 10 rupees. But if we go and see the transformer cost may be more than 100 rupees. Okay, so that's what we can see. So multiple diode usage is not that much problem here. It is still cheaper as compared to the center tap full rectifier. Also, we will see some other qualities of the full bridge rectifier in our later discussions. So, for this time being here, we shall see that full wave bridge rectifier uses 4 diodes, whereas the center tap full wave rectifier uses only 2 diodes. So, we will take one by one and try to see in details now. So, first we look at the center tap full wave rectifier. So, for the first half of the signal, as we can see the input signal here, Vi. So the kind of output signal which we can see at the secondary as a transformer is like this. Okay, with the polarity of the inputs as shown here, plus minus. The polarity of the output signal is here, plus minus, plus minus. So input is having say peak voltage Vm, and it is actually 1:2. It is not a step down transformer. We can see it is a kind of step up transformer, as you can see, which is say making the output voltage to be equal to 2 Vm at the secondary of the transformer. So here the peak voltage is 2 Vm at the secondary of the transformer, whereas at the primary of the transformer it is just Vm. So
But
we yes,
but the output is also VM, na?
output is Vm. Yes,
Then
we are just discussing. Okay, just we are discussing about that. Okay, so we can see here this 2 Vm voltage to appear across this secondary of the transformer, and maybe assumed maybe seen because this typing is done just in the middle, so it is dividing this 2 Vm into equal parts, each of having Vm value. And the total voltage across the secondary of the transformer is 2 Vm with the same polarity. Okay, so the first diode, the top diode D1, with this kind of polarity of the voltage becomes on because P side is connected with positive polarity of the voltage and N side is connected with the negative polarity of the voltage. Okay, so it makes this PN junction diode to be forward biased, whereas if we look at the diode D2 here, which is not shown, but we can put it into the place, then negative voltage, okay, negative voltage is applied on the P side and positive voltage on the N side. So it is reverse biased. So D2 is reverse bias and D1 becomes the forward bias. So D1 conducts, and ideally we can assume here that it is acting like a short circuit, which was earlier shown in the figure. So the D2 is whereas D2 is off, not allows any current through it. Okay. So the current flows in the top half circuit here. Let us label it by first half here, and we can easily find out the current through it and the voltage drop across the resistance R. So the current is flowing in the direction of the arrow as here in the loop, and the voltage drop across load resistance will be as shown here. Okay. So current one can find out to be equal to voltage in the loop, input voltage, that is Vm divided by R. So in this actually we just assume here, and this is the the peak value of the current Im. We can designate it. Im is equal to Vm upon R. In this here we neglected the resistance of the diode. If we also assume we also consider the resistance of the diode, then we can add this Rf into this. And if we also take the resistance of the secondary of the transformer, then we can also add Rs here. Okay, if Rs is the resistance of the secondary of the transformer and Rf is the forward bias resistance offered by the diode. So peak value of the current we can write to be equal to Vm upon Rs plus R plus Rf in general. And if we assume that Rs value and Rf values are very small as compared to the load resistance R, then it is just Vm upon R. Whereas if we see the take the second half of the input signal, then the polarity gets reversed. Okay, so negative potential is applied on the top side and positive polarity on the downside here. And again it is 1:2 step up transformer. So again the voltage across this is 2 Bm across the secondary of the transformer. But with this reverse polarity. Okay, so we have Vm here, Vm here, the reverse polarity here. When we are writing Vm, these are the peak values. Okay, peak values of the voltage here. Whereas because it is sinusoidal in nature, so one can write Vi to be equal to like Vm sine omega t or sine alpha, whatever one can write here. But alpha is equal to omega t. Okay, so these are the representations here. But now we are talking just about the peak values here. Okay, so it is not like that always the value voltage is equal to the Vm here. It is changing with time, of course. At different times we have different values of this input voltage, but with the reverse polarity. So with this polarity of the voltage here, the diode D2 now conducts here. D2 is on and D1 is off with the same argument here, and the current is flowing in the second half wave rectifier circuit in the direction shown, which makes a voltage drop across the resistance R, load resistance R, in the same with the same polarity as was in the first case. Okay, so whereas D1 is off here in this case, D1 is off and no current flows. So for the second half, again we get a peak voltage Vm in the okay, due to the second half wave rectifier circuit here, and due to the first half wave rectifier, we get the first dotted one. Okay, so what happens here in that we are getting the output for full cycle of the input. Suppose this is the input signal here. So for the full cycle, we are getting the output. Okay, so that's why we call this as full wave rectifier. Certainly, we can see that in the half wave rectifier, the output was present only for the half of the time period, whereas in this case here, the output is present for this next half cycle as well. So the quantities which we have estimated for the half rectifier seems to get doubled for the full wave rectifier. Okay, so mathematically we can also see these calculations. Okay, so maximum load current already we have seen the peak current that we called earlier Im, which flows. One is taking one half of the half a rectifier. Okay, so one is taking the resistance offered by the secondary of the transformer, the resistance offered by the diode, and resistance load resistance, and together all these will give us the peak value of the current to be equal to this. So here in this case, actually one is in place of Vm, one is taking here ESM. Okay, so in different text we will see these different notations. So notations has nothing to do with the concept here. So the peak value of the input voltage divided by total resistance in the path. Okay, so Rs plus Rf plus RL. That's what makes the peak value of the current. So one can see the upper half circuit and lower half circuit both, and one will find that the same value of the peak current is flowing through the both. We can calculate the average DC load current. We have just seen that when in the half wave rectifier, when the output current was flowing for half of the cycle, then we saw some average value of the current. Okay, that we called as IDC, and IDC was Im upon pi. Okay, so similar to this, to the half wave rectifier, we can also compute the average DC load current for the full wave rectifier. In the full wave rectifier, the current flows through the load resistance during the both half cycles. Okay, positive half cycle as well as negative half cycle. So both the cases are shown here. So the first is positive half cycle, and then the second one is corresponding to the negative half cycle. So let us assume that the load current is of the nature of sinusoid here, having the peak value Im as given in the previous slide. So one can compute this, the average current or the DC current flowing through the load, just by integrate this from 0 to pi and average this. One can also just integrate from 0 to 2 pi, but it is repeating. Okay, so one can just multiply by 2 and integrate from 0 to pi. So that one has done here. So either one can write like this: 1/2 pi into 0 to 2 pi, okay, and IL d omega t, both will give actually the same value. So integrate this, all of you can integrate, okay, the steps are written here. So one can easily find out that the average value of the DC current is indeed twice of that we get for the half wave rectifier. Okay, so for the half wave rectifier, it was Im upon pi, and for the full wave rectifier, we have the 2 Im upon pi. Also, we can find out average DC load voltage. Knowing the value of average DC load volt, this current, just we can multiply this current with the resistance. Okay, we shall get the DC load voltage. So this is the DC load voltage here. This is given by IDC into load resistance RL. So IDC is 2 Im upon pi multiplied by RL. One can also write substitute for Im that which we have just seen to be equal to ESM upon RF plus RS plus RL, that value, okay, and one can easily get, okay. So no need of remembering all these bulky equations here, just we can settle down to understand this first equation here only, that is sufficient for us. Other equations can be derived from the just manipulation of the primary equation. So if we look at this equation and take the fact that if RF and RS, these values are smaller as compared to this RL, then we will have this condition to be fulfilled, and we can neglect this and we will approximately have this 2 ESM upon pi. Okay. So load DC voltage can also be written like this. The peak value of the this voltage divided by pi. Okay. So in the half wave rectifier, we had find this to be equal to Bm upon pi, whereas for this okay, this is for half wave rectifier. For full wave rectifier, its value is just doubled here to Bm upon pi. We can think, okay, so in place of Bm, one is using just ESM. The root mean square current and voltages can also be found in the same way as we have computed for the half wave rectifier. So just looking at the definition of the root mean square value. So B is squared the load current, integrate this for the full cycle, take the average, and then square root of that. Okay, that gives us the root mean square value. Okay, so we have two half rectifiers which are similar in operation. So we can write this as integrating from 0 to pi instead of 0 to 2 pi, and then multiply by 2 here. Okay, so it gives the same value here, and the rest of the thing is then mathematical only, just substitution and then integration and then simplification. Okay, so different steps are shown over here. Okay, sine square omega t can be replaced by this value, and then this value can be integrated to this, and after putting the limits here, boundary value is here, we get this value here, and this gives us Im upon square root 2. So Im upon square root 2 is the RMS, okay? Root mean square, current value we can find out in this way. This current is going to flow through the load resistance. So if we multiply this current with the resistance, then we shall get the load voltage, okay, RMS value of the load voltage. So IRMS multiplied by load resistance gives us the load voltage RMS value. So other different parameters also we can compute, like DC power output and AC power input, which can be used to find out the efficiency and other factors. Okay. So DC power output is nothing but the DC power delivered to the load resistance. So the DC value of the voltage multiplied by the DC value of the current will give us the DC power output. So this DC voltage is nothing but IDC into RL. So if one substitutes this value, then one will get this value here, power value, and IDC is 2 Im upon pi. One can substitute these values to find out the DC power output. One can also rewrite the same equation just by substituting this peak value of the current Im to be equal to ESM upon RS plus RF plus RL. Okay, and also one can find out now the AC power input. So AC power input is okay, AC power input, okay, is the AC power given to the load. Sorry, AC power given to the circuit, okay, half this full rectifier. So we have just seen that this IRMS current is flowing, and this current is flowing through the secondary of the transformer, then through this diode, and then through this load resistance RL. Okay, so these are the things, okay, whereas this secondary of this transformer is said to have resistance RS, and RF is the resistance offered by the diode, RL is the resistance of the load here, okay. So and this IRMS current, this is flowing through these components, and this AC current, okay, this RMS value, okay, this RMS root mean square value of the current gives AC power okay, to the RS, RF, and RL. So the AC power is given by this, and after substitution of this IRMS value, one can get this equation. One can also substitute for the Im using ESM, okay, divided by total resistance RS plus RF plus RL. So one can get this equation. So AC powers given to the this circuitry is equal to this much. So we have the DC power output, we have AC power input. We can now compute the efficiency. So efficiency was defined as the ratio of the output DC power to AC input power given to the circuitry. So AC power is given to RS, RF and RD, whereas useful DC power is appearing across the load resistance only. Okay, so we can substitute the values and find out efficiency to be given by this value. In this here, if we divide the numerator and denominator by RL, then we will get 8 upon pi square 1 plus RF plus RS upon RL, and again if RF and RS is small, and then we can say that this value is very less than 1, and this is just approximated by this value. So 8 and pi, these are the constants. Okay, so we see the efficiency to be 81.2%. So certainly we can see that the rectifier efficiency has improved drastically, almost twice efficiency we can get from the full wave rectifier as compared to the half wave rectifier. Another factor of importance is ripple factor, which was defined by square root of IRMS upon IDC square minus 1. The definition is same here, that the amount of AC component found in the output is defined as ripple factor. Okay, so ripple factor expression already we have derived and comes out to be this value. Only we have to substitute for this IRMS and IDC into this equation with the values of the full wave rectifier. Okay, so for full wave rectifier, the IRMS is Im upon square root 2 and IDC is 2 Im upon pi. So one can substitute these values and find out the ripple factor. So amount of AC component found in the output, we can see it reduced here. For the half wave rectifier, it was approximately 1.21, whereas for this full wave rectifier it is very less. Okay, so almost more than 2 times it is decreased. Other values also we can find out. So ripple factor just we have computed. So load current, we have seen that in the half wave rectifier the current was flowing actually in this full wave rectifier, which is having 2 half wave rectifiers into 8. Okay, through this center tap transformer, the current is flowing for the first half cycle through the diode D1 and through diode D2 like this. So current I1, let us say current I2 here, current I1 actually and current I2 are say equal, if we assume that D1 and D2 are identical, and the typing is done just in the center, okay, so that it is equally dividing the volt into two parts. But if the one I think we have not discussed so far, that this diode is actually a non-linear device. Okay, one characteristic we have seen that the current exponentially increases. Okay, if we change the voltage here across the diode, then the current exponentially increases like this. Okay, so this gives a kind of non-linear nature. We can see the linear region we can define only for a very small variation only, in which if we see the variation may seem to be of linear uh, nature. Okay, so for but this is very hard to choose very small change in the VD. Okay, voltage across the diode. So this diode is actually a non-linear element, and so we expect that along with the fundamental frequency, we will have some harmonics of this also to be present. Okay, so that one can see here and represent the in terms of ID1 and ID2. One more thing we can go back and see that the I1 and I2 seem to flow in the same direction, but these are actually uh, having say for input voltage positive half cycle, we get output like this here. We can say that it is in phase. Okay, for the second half cycle, whereas for the negative half cycle, we see the output to be in the same direction here. Okay, so what we can say that there is a phase difference of 180 degree between this. Okay, when we are in this when we are operating in the second half. Okay, that is negative half. So there is a phase difference of 180 degree, because when the input is decreasing, then output is increasing here. Okay, and so when input is decreasing, the sorry, when input is increasing, then output is decreasing. Okay, so there is a phase difference of 180 degrees. So these things can be represented in terms of the ID1 and ID2 here with uh, having identical values. Only the difference is that the phase difference. Okay, so this is showing just harmonics also to be present in the non-linearity of the this diodes, and ID1 and ID2 can we think of to have along with this fundamental frequency. We have the harmonics here and some DC values also here. Okay, so the first term represents the DC value, and then fundamental frequency, and then harmonics. Okay, so total load current can be thought of to have the sum of these two currents ID1 and ID2, and maybe given to be equal to this. Okay, so if we look at the first term, then that is the term which we have been talking about, the average term IDC. Okay, that is 2 Im upon pi. And if we look at the current flowing through the secondary transformer, then we can see that because the currents are flowing in the opposite direction, so through the secondary transformer, the difference of the current ID1 and ID2 is flowing here. Okay. So there is okay, not much use of these discussions right now, but it is actually useful to understand, to have a better understanding the different components in the load current which may be present. Okay. Let us look at the peak inverse voltage, the last thing here for today. So peak inverse voltage is the maximum voltage which appears across the reverse bias diode here. So in this case here, we can see that the voltage across the reverse bias diode is twice of ESM or twice of BM. Okay, so we can actually apply the KBL into this loop, assuming the voltage say V across the reverse bias diode, assuming that the this forward bias diode is ideal and there is no voltage drop across this, acting like a short circuit here. So under these conditions, one can apply the KVL into the loop and find out that the voltage across this is twice of ESM. Okay. So PIB of the diode in the full rectifier is twice of BM or twice of ESM, whereas for the half rectifier, it was just BM or ESM. Okay. So with this, we shall stop here. We will continue our discussion in the coming lectures. Okay, so thank you all. We will stop here.